Hola everybody and welcome to Viva Spanish, the podcast. I'm Lee, founder of Viva Spanish, Spanish teacher, occasional coffee enthusiast, and someone who spent years helping people move beyond simply learning Spanish to actually using it. Because, let's be honest, most of us didn't decide to learn Spanish because we dreamt of memorizing irregular verbs or arguing about the subjunctive. We wanted to order tapas without panicking, chat with locals on holiday, feel more confident when we travel, maybe even build a life in Spain. And that's exactly what this podcast is all about. Each week we'll explore practical Spanish, useful phrases that people really use, insights into Spanish culture and life in Spain, and the lessons I've learned from years of teaching, living in Madrid and helping thousands of students gain confidence speaking the language. Whether you're just starting out with your first hola or you're already comfortably chatting over a café con leche, you're in the right place. So grab yourself a brew or perhaps something a little more Spanish, and let's spend a bit of time improving your Spanish and understanding the people and culture behind the language. Bienvenidos. Let's get started. Today I want to talk about something I hear almost every single week. Students tell me, Lee, I understand quite a lot of Spanish, but as soon as somebody speaks to me, my mind goes completely blank. And honestly, if that's you, you're completely normal. In fact, I'd argue that understanding Spanish but struggling to speak it is actually a sign that you're making progress. Because if you think about it, learning a language isn't just one skill, it's several skills. For example, reading, listening, writing, speaking. Speaking is naturally, usually, the hardest. Not because you don't know enough, but because it requires you to do something sometimes terrifying. Create language in real time. No pause, no Google Translate, no multiple choice option from that flipping owl. Just you and another person, or maybe even other people. I think a lot of us also carry a lot of baggage from when we were at school, when we were taught that making mistakes is bad, that mistakes lose you marks, that mistakes mean failure. But languages don't really work like that. Mistakes mean participation. Mistakes mean learning. Mistakes mean you're actually doing the thing, right? I've taught now thousands of Spanish lessons. And do you know who improves the fastest? Not the people that know the most grammar, the people willing to have a go. The people that say to themselves, I know this isn't right, but, and then they try anyway. Because confidence doesn't come before action. Confidence comes from action. Here's a phrase for you today. Me defiendo. Literally, me defiendo, I defend myself. But in Spain, it means I get by. Imagine somebody asks, ¿Hablas español? Do you speak Spanish? Instead of saying no or sí, hablo perfectamente español, which isn't right, you can say, bueno, me defiendo. Well, I get by. It's humble, natural, very Spanish. And honestly, it's probably where most learners actually are. Not fluent, not beginners. They get by. And that is something to be proud of. One thing I noticed when living in Madrid was that Spanish people don't expect perfection from foreigners. It's not the case. They genuinely just appreciate the effort. If you try, if you engage, if you smile, most people are made up. Meanwhile, we often hold ourselves to impossible standards. We think, I'll speak when I'm ready. The problem is, nobody ever feels completely ready. Imagine learning to drive by reading the highway code forever. Eventually, you have to get behind the wheel. Speaking Spanish works exactly the same way. Here's another useful phrase. Poco a poco. Poco a poco. Little by little. You'll hear this constantly in Spain, and it's brilliant advice for language learning. Fluency isn't just one giant leap. You don't go from nothing to fluent. It's thousands of tiny moments. It's ordering a coffee, it's asking for directions, it's introducing yourself, it's making mistakes, it's trying again. Poco a poco. With every mistake you make, you get a little bit closer to getting it right next time. That's what I tell my students all the time. I think social media's made this worse too. We see people online speaking perfectly, using advanced vocabulary, sounding fluent. What we don't see is the thousands of mistakes that came first. Nobody posts the awkward conversations, the moments where they forgot simple words, the times they accidentally said something ridiculous, which we all have done, by the way. Trust me, every Spanish speaker you admire has embarrassed themselves at one point or another. Usually multiple times. That's me. Yeah. I remember living in Spain and having some moments where I'd walk away from conversations, replaying them in my head. And I'd think to myself, why didn't I say that? I knew that word. Or I sound like a complete idiot. It's like walking away from the exam, right? And you speak to your mate, but sometimes it's a conversation in your own head. You realize where you went wrong. I mean, ultimately, I was having conversations in another language. That's amazing. What you're doing is amazing. Learning, trying. Imperfect Spanish is still Spanish. So here's another phrase. Lanzarse a la piscina. Literally, it's to throw yourself into the swimming pool. To take the plunge. To go for it. And honestly, I think that's exactly what language learning requires. At some point, you have to stop preparing endlessly and just speak the bloody language. Will you make mistakes? Of course you will. 100%. Absolutely. Do you make mistakes in your own language? Yes. Will you occasionally say something ridiculous? Almost certainly. Will you survive? Of course. More importantly, will you improve? Definitely. So here is my challenge for you this week. It is to have one conversation. Doesn't need to be long, doesn't need to be perfect. Ask someone how they are. Order something in Spanish. Speak to your teacher. Message a language exchange partner. Comment on a post. But speak. Because speaking isn't the reward at the end of learning Spanish. Speaking is how you learn Spanish. And remember this, you don't need to sound Spanish. You don't need to know every tense. You don't need a perfect accent. You simply need to communicate. Because language is not about perfection. It's about connection. Every conversation you have brings you one step closer to becoming the Spanish speaker you want to be. Poco a poco. You've got this. Just remember, nobody speaks Spanish fluently by waiting until they're ready. So order the coffee, start the conversation, make the mistakes, and enjoy the process. Thank you for spending this time with me. Como siempre, la próxima vez, más y mejor. Hasta luego.